Alright, we are recording. Put back in. Continuing in Mad Max. Key was originally provided by WB Games when it released, because that's when I reviewed it. Is that 2015? 2015, 2016, something.
We're making all the pieces. We stand ready to finish the...
Okay, I do kind of remember. Got that stuff taken care of. Okay. I do kind of remember what it is I want to do here. I want to get the gut gash stuff started, then I'll be cleaning out the map.
We're in gut gash country. Oh, watch your back, Saint. He's ruthless, same as Jeet, but older and meaner. He camps in a hulk way down in the Great White. His clan were water people, pirates, slavers. They say he foretells the rising of the seas again.
What can you offer?
Heavy plates of steel armor, grills, and other life-saving defenses are his specialty. At a hefty cost, of course.
Ah. Whoa. This is not so good for me.
Even the littlest ones are armored up.
Ah, good.
There it is ahead. Gut gases, go.
Just another shipwreck.
No, don't be fooled. Where we see a wreck, his people see an ark. That'll save them for when the water returns. They protect what's theirs. Tooth and nail.
Okay, let him repair and...
Now.
Yeah, so this has been an interesting and busy with Computex, and I do have notes on stuff from that. And I also want to quickly mention, because it's like, let me see, the last spell, that review came out. I think he's done. Oh no, he did have just a little bit more. He was about done that. So that was an early access review, which I did enjoy the game, and can definitely recommend it. I don't know how I want to handle it being an early access review though, and I'm actually working on another early access review for Going Medieval, which those embargoes have passed, so I don't. I was working on the last spell, so I couldn't get started on Going Medieval, but I don't know how I want to handle it.
Oh dear. Late side. It's too
My thinking is like maybe do streams when there's significant updates for them, but instead of Mad Max or whatever else. But I don't know if I'm able to stick to that. That's one thought I've had.
Plenty of time to kill him.
Into the many mysteries of the magnificent manifold. No.
It is! It's the little Count of the Carburetor. Oh, who could forget that whimpering? And the devious suckling face. Oh, dead a dozen times if you do, boy.
We've come to deal.
Nothing else. I got gash.
So pitch me, little man, before I make a blood sport of your driver here.
He's no ordinary driver. This one, no, he was sent to me by the angel combustion herself.
Angel. We parlay with the water gods here.
We desire to make way to the dead Baron. My sanctum. My sanctum is destroyed. It's burned. Everything I have is gone. Gone. I have nothing left. Please, this car needs healing. She does. And strengthening. Yes, and if you let us stay here and rebuild, then I offer to you these. The hands of a Blackfinger. Yes.
You'll have one chance from me.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, B. Thanks, B.
Keep your hands where I can see them. Keep the deviant Blackfinger leashed. Don't need any of his perversions on my ship.
I need welding wire to do my work.
Make do for now. I'll find you welding wire.
Okay. Sure, I can do that. Wait. Although, no, let me hold on. Feel like looking around for spending.
Welding wire.
But yeah, so as I said, oh wow, that's kind of broken. In the UI in the right, it's still showing me a fuel gauge, even though I'm not in the car. But yeah, I'm yeah, I really did enjoy the last spell, and I do hope I can get back to get back to playing soon. But I've got. Let me see. I did that review. I've got Going Medieval to review. I've got another game. I think the embargo might still be in place, so I don't want to say what that. And then a fourth, because why not? Actually, that one is that one I don't mind talking about. I got a key for Dying Light Premium Edition, so that would be Dying Light from 2016. I think that's 2016. But it, with all the DLC. And I have been thinking that I want to replay Dying Light. There. For a couple reasons. And it's like with this, well, now I have a reason to review it as well. But I'll probably get to that last. So after this other review, just it's kind of the timing of stuff, and it's like Platinum Edition has been out for a little bit. The game itself has been out for a while, so it's just makes sense to me to do that one for. To that one, but okay. There. I thought whatever. Oh wait, no. That's why I had the eyes.
Magnum opus, consecrated corpus of the angel combustion. Your guise is now that of the Jack. Complete, radiant, deadly, and ready for anything.
It won't be complete until we get the V8 from Gastown.
Indeed, yeah. And maybe not even then.
And immediately back to a better setup. But yeah, so it's, we'll see how some of the reviews stuff ends up going. I mean, it's... I am quite busy. It is the simplest way. But, yeah. Don't think I have anything else I really need or want to change. Okay. So yeah, how about the Computex? Well,
Please!
pull into this.
Please! The child. It's the burning sickness. The fan. Give it to me, quickly. Come on! Just let me heal her pain, please.
Don't mess around with that stuff. Don't touch the merchandise.
Don't worry, you do get to free her eventually. Both of them. Okay.
Still got a lot to prove, boy.
Possibly that. Let's... Okay, I'm thinking... Oh, actually, I should do the... I'm thinking I'll clear out this territory and, just start swinging around that way. But yeah, so the first thing they got in here would be the Intel news, since they did go first. Which... Of them, it was only... I had forgotten that Computex was this week, and then it's like, oh, there's news from Intel, or concerning Intel, because I am not personally on the press list. And it's like, oh, great, Computex. This is going to be a busy week on top of all the reviews. Yeah.
As you wish. But hurry back. This place is prime
Don't
pickings
slay
for
me.
raiders,
I carry no weight.
scavengers, and
Come
murderers.
from the north. Looked for shelter with Gut Gas tribe. Was turned away. Better off. Here's something big is coming. Something destructo grand. Warlord Stanky Gummo was gonna bring the kill to them.
Okay. So I just went by what was in the press release that Intel had, along with I think, yeah, I looked at the slide deck as well. Yeah, there is. I'll just do that since it's right here. So if there was additional stuff covered in the presentation that they did, but it wasn't like in the slide deck or in the press release, I didn't cover it. So yeah, sorry about that. I did look at the AMD one, which of the three, and true it isn't, I didn't watch the NVIDIA one either, but again, I looked at the press releases, and it's like, of the three, AMD's was the most interesting, so I chose wisely how to spend my time.
I've heard of you. The one who died Lord Scrotus. The one all a Gastown aims to kill. The bringer of chaos and carnage.
Alright. So one of the things, and one benefit to not having watched the Intel presentation, and this can also be true for any of them really, is that then you're also able to see some of the coverage of the stuff from other people and just see certain points that you may have missed. Like one that I saw a lot of people point out was when Intel was showing off the two... Yes, Tiger Lake refreshes. I want to make sure that was Tiger Lake. When they were showing those off and their performance compared to the Ryzen 7 5800U, I think it is. Something a lot of people were pointing out was that the Intel CPU configuration, so the Tiger Lake refresh configuration, and this is in Intel's note, so they may not have highlighted this in the presentation, but they did still did record and publish this information. But the Tiger Lake refresh CPU that was so much faster than the AMD CPU was running at about 28 watts. I think I may have screwed up, but anyway, so Intel was at 28 watts. AMD, what was it running at? And it was using the MuProf tool, which is what I use for the that's what they used, and based on that, Intel was saying that, yeah, the AMD CPU was pulling 15 watts, typically. Though there were times it boosted up to, what did it say? I think it was, 25?
Burnt to ashes.
But it's just... That's almost a 2-to-1 ratio for normal power consumption. So yeah, Intel beating it, and not by a significant margin, though it is true that the power usage is very much a diminishing return kind of scenario. So who knows, maybe if they did leave it at 15 watts as well, it would actually just basically be in line with the Ryzen CPU. Power usage is weird like that for components. There's a reason why a lot of people, like myself, I do enjoy undervolt. I don't underclock. Some people do that as well, though. But I mean, you really can make a large difference by doing that.
Stop it! It will tear that tire right off!
Oh wait, why did I do that? I need to do that. Because I need to ram the thing. So it would be interesting then to see what the results would be if somebody were to lock it to 15 watts. But that is not the situation, so yeah. And it is also, yes, Intel could claim it's the first, they have the first U-class CPU, isn't pretty sure that AMD didn't get that one, that could hit 5 gigahertz. Now there is a single core boost under certain conditions and such, which, man, Intel's boosting stuff is annoying to me. Anyhow, I can come back to that. It's also a 4-core 8-thread, whereas the AMD part is 8-core 16-thread. 5800U is an 8-core part, so yeah, it's the comparisons there are not necessarily ideal. But yeah, the whole Intel boosting thing, and this is very much an aside, but it's like, it really does seem to me like they would be wise to basically just toss all of that out, or at least a lot of it out, and just unify to a new standard for them.
Nitro when he ran!
Because it is rather annoying, the whole, like, oh, well, with this boost technology goes to this, with this boost technology that's available in some situations but not all, it boosts to this, and then with this last boost technology it can do this, oh, and now we have a 4th one. And I think that is the case. I think they are at 4 now. Because there's Turbo Boost 2, Turbo Velocity Boost, I meant it, actually. And then, what's the one that's the more opportunistic? See, that's one thing that AMD does have right, in that, with PBO, that's opportunistic, and that's just how it works. If it thinks it can, I want to be careful.
I need in. There's gotta be.
If it thinks it can, it will increase performance. That's how that works. Whereas Intel seems to be much more of a, in certain circumstances, we will just increase the frequency and power usage and such. And it's like, yeah, being not so deterministic would probably make it. That is also true where AMD does have, is it XFR? Is that what it is? Because there is a basic boosting algorithm that's on the CPUs that's separate from PBO. So that's, like, when you have PBO disabled, they'll still boost, but the algorithm is different. Probably enough of an aside there. I mean, from what I could tell, at least based on press releases, there was not really much else to Intel's demonstration. Intel's presentation. I'll skip AMD's for now just because, man, there was a lot there. Very cool stuff. Well, at least two of the things were. The other two, it's like, well, it's good, but not necessarily of tremendous significance to me. But yeah, with NVIDIA though, it seemed like mainly it was just a, here's the... Well, this isn't good for me. It's a mine. Although that does mean I now know where the mine is.
Hey! Don't step inside here! There's boom traps all over! I can't get out! My bud pube tubes has got blown to shreds already!
Okay. What's that? Is it? Wait. Okay, no, that is. I just want to make sure I was oriented correctly and I knew where I was going. And also that I do have that mark, which I do. I saw that. There. Yeah, so it seemed like NVIDIA's main thing was just, here's 2 new GPUs, which, yeah, the 3080 Ti is appreciably higher performance than the 3080 from what I've seen, and I haven't looked too closely. I should admit that I haven't looked too closely. But, while it might be, you know, better performance, it's not tremendously higher performance. I mean, it's not far back from the 3090, but the gap between 3080 and 3080 Ti is not necessarily enough to justify it, is what I've been seeing as the consensus for a number of people. Yeah, it's $1,200 in theory. The MSRP is $1,200, but you know, no one's gonna be able to get it at that for a while. Come on. There we go. So yeah, it's, and also some have been pointing out that how annoying it is to them, especially with the 3080 Ti. I'm not sure about the 3070 Ti, but that, you know, these dies could have just gone to 3080s so that more people could buy those, as opposed to them being diverted to a different higher bin. That means that fewer people are gonna get access, are gonna be able to afford it. So. I mean, hey, NVIDIA feels them like money doing it, so that's what they're doing. That's all they need to do. That's, you know, can be their view of things and how they want to do it. Which does remind me of something that I do. I really should make sure I have more of that to memory. Just an interesting thing that I saw years ago now, concerning the philosophy of the purpose of a corporation, of a company, is to increase its value for the shareholders. And that what that's actually, the actual origins of that is actually is more or less a discredited economics professor at one place, but that's all it took. Yeah. Anyway. That is how NVIDIA's designed to use those GPU dies. And it will be interesting to see how some of that works out. I'm sure they're all going to sell. So that is definitely not a concern for NVIDIA. Nor would it be for AMD if they did it. Or Intel, in theory, if they chose to do something similar. And I'm not... Oh no, it's a refresh, so that isn't... That should therefore be a separate silicon. But, yeah. But, now... And I do also have some stuff about the EK. Yeah, mainly two and a half things. Depends on how you want to count the Matrix 7, which is... I'll stay up here. Yeah, so EK, three main things that I have noted here. One is Matrix 7, which is basically they want to have a standard of certain measurements being factors of 7. The reason for this is just to make routing and stuff easier. So, for example, they announced 3 new radiator. Okay. 3 new radiator side categories. Well, a whole new radiator line that also has 3 separate categories to it. A thin, a perform... Well, yeah, it's S for slim, P for performance, and X. Man, this is annoying. I mean, it's only annoying because... Come on. Because of being surrounded by them makes it much harder to avoid and counter. It's gonna charge. Do that. Alright, there. But yeah, so they actually have the widths of the radiators, the thicknesses of the radiators aligning to this Matrix 7. So that way, and they also announced some new fittings. But that way, like if you have the slim, you can just put on the 28mm long extension fitting on it, extender fitting on it, and then it will line up with holes just as well as the extreme, the thickest of them, because it's already that 28mm thicker. And then the performance is 14 millimeters thicker than the slim and thinner than these. So it's a nice idea. It'll be interesting to see if that extends beyond EK. But even for just them having it, though, that can still be a positive for a lot of people. Because it at least means that their systems are going to be conforming. So, there it is. If it's just this one, then do this. And don't have to worry about enemies anymore. I can just explore to find all the stuff. Since I was mentioning the radios, that's another thing that they announced with their this new series. I think that it's the Quantum Surface series. The thing that's really, well, the one thing that, depending, can be really neat. That's right, I think it is. Whoops. Don't want to be near that. Nope. Guess I need to get up there a different way. Sorry, I know I keep getting distracted paying attention to the game instead of the stuff I want to talk about. But yeah, so with the Radiator series, one of the things is that they will be available in white. So, you know, typically Radiators seem to be black, so this, if you want them in white, that'll be an option. Eventually, at least. I don't know if it's going to start that way. I just don't remember what they said. But they did announce two things that's like, well, one of them I'm pretty sure they've not done before at all. I don't know about the other. Okay.
Like a body, every organ just shut down. Until the world was dead.
Okay. Multi-port radiator. So, with your standard AIO, you've got the 2 ports, and they did also announce new AIOs, but the nucleus. You typically have the 2 lines for an AIO. The tubes come out perpendicular to the surface of the radiator. Okay? With with multi-port, you can use the ports there, or you also have ports that are on the side, so they're in the same plane as the radiator, which for some, depending on how you're routing stuff, that might be easier. It might be better to do. So that, you know, it makes sense for EK to offer that, because, as I just said, that may make some builds easier for people. Drop this. I'll just head. Did I came up? Okay, yeah. But what else they announced that is, I don't think that they've offered them before, is a cross-flow radiator. So, looking at an AIO, you have, oh crap, I don't remember what the name of it actually is. But it's basically, you know, you have the tubes both on the same side. So, the coolant goes in on one. It goes into the radiator. It then travels down half of it. When it hits the end, it turns around and comes back. So you have a U shape to the movement of the coolant. Okay. With crossflow, though, instead the inlet and outlet of the coolant are on opposite sides of the radiator. So it only ever makes the coolant only makes a single trip through the radiator, and that means it's also when it goes in, coolant goes through all of the I'm trying to remember what they're called, but if you were to take apart a radiator, you'd see that, or if you just look really closely, you can see that between the fins there are small channels, and it looks like they might just be for like structural support between the fins. No, that's actually where the coolant goes through in order to be cooled by the fin, because the heat then goes out of those tubes there into the fin. 2 more.
It collects morning dew. It'll fill up again.
With crossflow, it's all of the that's right, this is way. The entire the channels then that the fluid is in that the coolant is in that connects to the fins. In crossflow, those are basically the entire width. So the coolant can go the entire width of the radiator on its one pass, whereas with the non-crossflow, it does half and half when it goes in one direction, then the other half when it comes back. And if you are wondering, oh, is one more efficient than another? For cooling, no. Not really, it shouldn't be. As I saw, because I was checking on that before, well, as I was writing up the article, I was checking on that. And as one person put it, no, because, there's this thing called thermodynamics, and that's just how it works. And it basically is. If you ignore the exact internal configuration of the radiator, all you're really concerned with is the cooling capacity. That doesn't change just because of how the coolant flows in. Well, the direction the coolant flows. Where it could make a difference, however, is with flow rate. Because without having that U-turn in there, it might be more efficient just for the coolant to flow through, so you might be able to then run the pump a little bit slower. That's where it could be useful, besides just the whole, how you are routing the tubing. Because I could definitely see with some case designs that would be easier using a cross-flow, or multiple cross-flows. Set that up. Not that I have any experience at all with custom liquid cooling. Actually, yeah, let's top it off. And then just... Oh, did it automatically? It might have. Alright, actually... Oh, wait. I want to get the buggy so I can take care of the minefield. What? Was there more? I don't remember. More that I wanted to say concerning that story. Isn't it? Huh. I can't yet. Okay then. Maybe that's something that's unlocked later. Okay, oh, no. There is one more thing from the EK stuff that is actually fairly interesting and makes sense that they are doing. But it is going to make things more complicated. It sounded like with their... I believe it's Velocity? Velocity 2? That Velocity is their CPU blocks for their Quantum line of products. And Vector is the GPU. For their Velocity 2, so the next design that they're doing, it sounds like they're going to have it be, I think they specifically said tuned for each socket, which does make sense because of AMD, basically. With this whole chiplet design, you don't have the main sources of heat in a CPU center anymore, or even symmetrical anymore, and that does make things more complicated. Seems like there were some people that I remember when the designs were first coming out, first available. I saw people talking about how, oh, you need to have it turned this way, and this was also for air coolers. How the cooling block. It's regardless. Air cooler or liquid cooler. The design of that block is important. So EK seems like they want to design them to match appropriately, so that way it can be more efficient. I'll get that stuff. But yeah, it is going to make things more complicated then, because that would also mean well, if we don't see them, well, they'd have to do an AM for socket. It's just, it's a little weird right now with it because you can't have on the same AM4 socket the Zen and Zen Plus that are, single chip symmetric dies, symmetrically placed dies. And then there's Zen 2 and Zen 3, both on AM4 as well, that have the asymmetrical layout. So, yeah, I don't know. Guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, no, no, I shudder at the thought of the red-eyed buzzards hunting us.
Just see this. Nope. Okay. This is why you take a gas. So I guess then with that mentioned, can get to...
What's in here then?
Okay, and this way. Get to the AMD stuff, which the first thing that they showed off was probably the thing most people were interested in, which is FSR, Fidelity FX Super Resolution. Which it will be very interesting to see how well it stands up, how well it works come June 22nd, because that's when it will first be available, on June 22nd. Yeah, which is definitely pretty cool. Okay. That, it's not even out of, within a month it's going to be available, which I also just want to add, because there was so many people that was like, I was shocked that this is going to be out so soon, because, with the comments from Scott, wasn't it Scott Hurkelman? I could be misremembering whose comments I think people were mischaracterizing. That, because, it's like he was talking about, it being available, well, by the end of the year, and that they're still deciding how to implement it. And it, and people were taking that to mean that, oh, it's still months away. They, basically don't have anything. They were just playing us with the announcement. It's like, no. I've never. I
remember this.
My interpretation from the original comments was, and because there was more to it than just that, but the specific, it was talking about the specific implementation, as in how it would be run, not what was being run. Suggesting that, yeah, we had the algorithm figured out, we just didn't know how we want the specific portion of the GPU we want doing this, which is a legitimate. That went boom. Which is a legitimate thing to run into. It's like, yeah, we know what we want to have happen, we just don't know how we're gonna do it, or rather, how exactly it's going to run on there. Like, do you want it to be run in those shaders, in the texture shaders, compute shaders, things like that? So to me, it's like, it never seemed out of the realm of possibility to me that it could be announced very quickly. But yeah, and some people though, that's like, nope, can't believe that it would be possible any sooner. But they showed it off, and unfortunately, yeah, one of the annoying things about YouTube compression is you really can't trust what you're seeing there and how accurate it's gonna be. Because I've seen some try to do comparison, but it's like, yeah, in one place I saw it even put it as that, oh, well, if it looks this bad through the compression, just imagine how bad it'll be in real life. It's like, yeah, but you really can't trust YouTube compression anyway for a quality comparison. sorry, it's really not that doable. And it's also, I think it was the Anantech article that wasn't Anantech. It might have been somewhere else. But they did make the point that with the screenshots that were given to press that got a pre-briefing on this stuff, I did see someone make the point of, we don't know if this is like still from a video or an actual screenshot. Because still from a video, you have the issue of the motion blur in a game. Whereas if you have, and other issues, potentially other issues as well. Alright. Whereas with a direct screenshot, then, you know, that shouldn't be there because there shouldn't be motion to deal with. But one thing that they did say in the presentation, it is a spatial system. And if you look at the GPU Open thing talking about it, it does specifically say, yes, it's spatial, meaning it's not using temporal or temporal data or motion vectors, which are temporal data. It has been funny how some people seem to be saying that those are separate. It's like, no, that's all part, that would all be under temporal. But anyway, I mean, you can say that it isn't, you know, some nuance there. It isn't just, you could say that temporal implies these things. Motion vectors is, you know, potentially something, you know, it's still under the broad temporal, but is technically implies this. It's like, okay, fine, you can have that argument, but it still is temporal information. Oh wait, that's right. I wanted to fill the water. Where is it? But by not doing the temporal, seriously, where's the water? Here. Then potential artifacts from temporal, such as ghosting, which I still see people complain about that in DLSS 2.0 even, which I've not.
True, but most often, her gift is that.
I did see someone I was looking around in Metro Exodus, the Enhanced Edition. It wasn't necessarily that horrible, and it's one of those, I don't know how much of that is necessarily DLSS and how much of it might just be how Metro Exodus does things. Well, Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition does things. But it still is the case that temporal solutions do have certain problems. So by not using a temporal solution at all, you do get around that. Now, it does also mean that technically you might be using less information. Well, you might have less information to work with than DLSS does. I need to get it for. So much better. But I also do wonder, though, with the whole. It's like, oh, it's not using temporal. Well, it's not using it now. Could we see a second version of FSR come about that does make use of temporal data? Don't know. But by having it being just spatial, having it also be open source. It isn't open source yet. I assume that'll be on the 22nd. I don't feel like. I don't have it. Okay then.
Time bomb on the back there!
Oh, this is a problem, because that's the camp I wanted to go to. There we go. Okay, you know, I need to actually take these guys out.
Sneak shot got his gun on us!
Yeah, so this is the first implementation, at least public implementation, of the Fidelity Effect Super Resolution, so that there's no reason to think that it won't change. I mean, don't forget DLSS changed. It also need to. 1.0 was not that good. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let repair the car.
Sacred work.
So yeah, we could see it improve a lot. It looked like the performance numbers, though I've not seen anything too specific, it did seem that many were characterizing it as being in line with DLSS. It's just a question of the image quality, also adoption. But definitely the thing that AMD did with this announcement of FSR that was the most kind of like mic drop kind of thing was they showed it off being used with the RX 6800 XT. Yeah, and then they were talking about what all it's gonna run on, and I'm covered. From Polaris and Vega to now, everything now, it'll run. So my RX 580 that I'm currently using, it'll run on this. The RX Vega that is not in the test system presently, that's the 2060 in there, it'll run on the Vega. And it will also, because this is what they showed, it'll also run on the RTX 1060. Sorry, not RTX, the GTX 1060. Which, as they pointed out, as AMD pointed out, is recognized as the most popular GPU on Steam, which makes sense. It was a very good GPU. Just focusing on the water. There we go. Yeah, so AMD has their new super resolution tech, and it will work with most any GPU, any modern GPU. They did specify 10 series and above, and not prior to Polaris for its GPUs, which does seem a little weird. I guess maybe we'll find out more about what exactly it needs to work that is causing it to not be have broader AMD supporting it. Sorry, I'm focused on the fighting instead of the continuing to talk about it. And there is other stuff to talk about too.
We cannot! The Legion will split you apart!
Thought it would just stop. It doesn't seem like we're done. Anyway, yeah, so the GTX 10 series, or at least the 1060, and up. So I don't have a 1060, but I do have a 1070 and 1080, and a RTX 2060 and 2080. It should work with all of those. So whatever game it is that will, whatever games I may have that will come to support it, I may be able to work with, regardless of the GPU, and do all sorts of testing. I'm not going to do that for a while yet. I have so much work right now already, and I don't know what more will manifest for me. I don't want to commit to doing too much more there. At least as far as like multi-GPU performance comparisons. I will definitely want to look at if I have a game that will support that come June 22nd supports it. I will at least look at it for image quality. Don't know if I'll do a proper article on that or whatever, but I know I am personally curious, so...
That guy! Get back! Get back!
There we go. That's what I was looking for earlier. Kind of weird I didn't get that. Yeah, let's take care of that. But yeah, a lot of people have been pointing out the whole how amusing it is that AMD would basically, here's a feature and here it is running on NVIDIA to prove that it will just work on a lot. But it also prompted, I saw one article talking about it, and it's like, I don't think you understand what you're talking about. Because it was trying to claim that this is not a good thing, and that we're being misled somewhat, that, because there's no way AMD would implement, well, AMD has basically said that as far as optimizations for it go, that's going to be down to NVIDIA and Intel for their products. If they want to optimize the performance for FSR, they will have to do it themselves. AMD isn't going to do that for them. And this place was trying to take it as though that means that, oh, well, there won't be support for anything outside of the 1060 on the, in Godfall, which is what the demo was. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. That, it's like, no, what they're saying is if you want it to run better than that, NVIDIA has to do it. Because it's also, AMD can't optimize for an NVIDIA GPU. It's not their GPU. They don't know how it worked in that much detail. And they also couldn't mess around with like drivers in it or anything. It's like, if you want driver-side optimizations, that's only NVIDIA that could achieve that. So it's like, how this was written was as though AMD is, you know, did all this work for NVIDIA. It's like, no, they did the work for themselves and was showing that it also works on NVIDIA. It's like, that's very different. But I did also see, apparently, Raja Kadori, who is now with Intel, after leaving AMD a few years ago now, it basically made it sound like he's interested in this technology, and that, you know, perhaps Intel will use it. It's like, and that was part of the reason AMD said what it did as far as the optimizations. You know, basically, hey, if you want to, go ahead, but you're responsible for supporting it and optimizing for it on your stuff. Which is completely fair. I mean, why should AMD do that work for them? Especially because, as I was saying, that you need to know what you need to know about the GPU you're doing that with, and that's not necessarily, you know, something that AMD could do then for any company, any hardware but its own, for any other company. So, whoops. Oh, it didn't kill. Then, let me see, what else did they announce? They announced the desktop APUs, which are the Zen 3 APUs. They didn't say, they said how many GPU cores, GPU compute units there would be, but they didn't say what kind. Which may mean then that we're still looking at Vega, but it's, you know, the Vega APU core, APU compute units are actually pretty good. So that's not too bad, but it does mean that we're not yet to having RDNA 2 in an APU. At least I don't think that, I'm pretty sure they didn't say that it was RDNA 2. But there are also some, at least like SoC kind of things that AMD has that are combining Zen 2 or Zen 3 with RDNA 2 or similar. So I don't remember. I'm sorry, I just don't quite remember. Is it in the notes? No. Although that does remind me one thing about the FSR. They did also say that in addition to Polaris and newer, also all of the Ryzen with graphics, so the Ryzen APUs will also support it, which makes sense because they're all Vega cores there. So if Vega supports it, then it would make sense that those APUs would as well. Yeah, so they announced those, and it was just two, an 8-core and a 6-core, and of course with SMT you can double those threads, which I still have this idea, this vision, and I think would be really cool to see, to try, although I don't have money to do it, which would be, the idea would be to basically take one of those APUs, especially an 8-core 16-thread, but you could probably do it with a 6-core 12-thread. Build an ITX system and throw a capture card in there. Because you'd have a very compact capture system then that would be able to do software encoding. You wouldn't have to rely on hardware encoding. It's like, that is, fairly impressive. And there would certainly be people that would be useful. Not so much me, because in my desktop, it's like I'm playing and capturing on my desktop without any issue right now. So, yeah, I don't really need a dedicated capture system. But I could see it being very useful for some. And yeah, it might. The use case might be limited. Because, you'd need somebody that has reason to capture. And would want it to be small and relatively portable, too. But, yeah, it's still just, I would love to see that build. And I know I am, losing the thread because I'm trying to also focus on the game. They announced the new the new Radeon mobile GPUs. Which look good. Not necessarily as good as some may want. We'll just have to see. I did see one review that basically, third-party review, so it's not AMD's numbers, that showed it coming a little bit behind the RTX 3080 for laptops, so the mobile 3080. It does come a little bit behind that, but it's still that's good place for the 68, the RX 6800M to be. And they also made the point that the specific laptop they were testing in, it's like, yeah, this is $500 less expensive than the 3080 laptop we've been comparing it to, that it was within a few percentage points of consistent. It's like, that's a big deal. To be able to have it at such a lower cost is significant. I know I can just shoot it, but I don't want to. And along with the mobile GPUs, they also announced AMD Advantage, which is, my take on it is it's AMD's equivalent to the Intel Evo and NVIDIA Max-Q, which are just the special qualification things for laptops. So, the whole, we want, these certain, it's like you need these certain requirements in order for this to be, for this to qualify, and for AMD, that's, naturally AMD CPU and GPU. The use of smart access memory, the use of smart shift, which smart shift is the whole, basically, it's not exactly a shared budget, but you kind of go with that. Oh, they were right here. Damn. But the power budgets for the CPU and GPU are connected so that things actually, wonder if they're up on top. They might. That would make some sense. Just thinking, is there a way up there? But yeah, so like if you have a scenario where the CPU needs more power than the GPU, it will, with Smart Shift, it'll actually like reduce the power to the GPU to feed the CPU more and vice versa. So a good technology to have for a laptop. FreeSync naturally, but it's like FreeSync premium level where the display needs to be at least 144 Hz and have low frame rate compensation and 300 nits minimum. Some neat stuff like that. But then at the very end of AMD's demo, oh, there was one. AMD's presentation was the thing that was not in the pre-briefing. You could tell that a few ways. One is that people that got the pre-briefing were talking about how, yeah, we didn't know about this. This was a last-minute surprise that AMD gave, which was basically so we've been working with TSMC on 3D chip stacking. And that last piece of scrap is immediately in front of me. Yeah, it's like, we've been working with TSMC on that, with their 3D fabric. And here it is. Lisa Sue holds it up, Dr. Lisa Sue holds it up, and we've, removed some of the excess material that we have there so that things are level, so that you can see that this bump here, that is 64 megabytes of SRAM being added to the L3 cache of this Ryzen 9 3900. I actually do want to for a reason. There's more stuff developed, so I'll be put into a better position to go to G. But yeah, they also thinned down the compute dies in the Zen 3 processor so that they can have the 64 megabytes on both dies. So it's a total of 196 megabytes of L3 cache. That's a lot. But they set it up so that it can all be the same height as the I/O die, so it's basically an identical package to the current R9 5900X. Yeah, R9 5900X. I kind of started trailing off at the X. And then they were showing performance, and my read of it was that, yeah, this is a prototype, so these numbers I was showing you could become better. At least I kind of hope so. But they also said, and this will be shipping in high-end products by the end of the year. Well, no, sorry, not shipping. Being produced. The production of high-end products using this will be available at the end of the year. What will be occurring at the end of the year, so availability early next year. Now, some more information that was eventually provided, that this is Ryzen. This will be for Ryzen. This won't be the server parts, even though I'm sure Epic could also make use of stacked cache like that. But yeah, it's definitely really neat. How long have I been? Okay, hour.
We got a powder cook next to you.
There actually is another level above this one. There's a total of 4. Yeah, I'm just trying to think I want to talk about. It's oh no, that is all. I thought there was another. Anyway, sure. Get all this stuff up. hopefully that engine won't be more than 500. Ah. Just, wait, no. No, crap. I'm trying to remember. How do I pull out the other vehicle? There is a way. Why not? Okay, that's... That's it. I just want to take care of the minefield before stopping, so I don't need to remember about it later.
Let's go rummage, dog.
But yeah, so it's... That is definitely a very cool technology that they showed, and... Oh yeah, among the additional information that Anantech got, was a single chip. Well, one additional layer, so it was, just the stacking of one chip on top. Even though TSMC's technology can allow for multiple stacks, and AMD did also say they're only doing one stack, it will be interesting to see when they may try to go to more stacks. But it's also... Dr. Ian Cuttress of Anantech also has his own Tech Potato YouTube channel. Look it up. It is quite interesting. He does have a video talking about it. And he understands this far better than I do. One of the things that he talks about with it is that this method is using TSVs through silicon vias, which is quite different from Intel's Foveros? Is that how you pronounce it? Which is a micro bump method. So it's basically there are actually copper wires. You want to fight? There's actually copper wires within the CPU and the SRAM die that connect the two together. So this can make it much more compact than the micro bumps because you are able to stack completely vertically, whereas Foveros is more horizontal. So it's like a wider package as opposed to building up vertically. I don't remember when it was, but I'm pretty sure Intel did confirm that yes, they are working on 3D stacking as well. So that they'll get there as well eventually. I think they want to do a lot of fun stuff with that. But they will also be using the Foveros. So there's this fact that they are using the TSVs, but also AMD in the presentation was also talking about how it's 15 times the density of microbump, but also 3 times the power efficiency. There. This is where I'll be safe. Oh, actually, hang on, let me turn in the oil tank thing, just right here. Wait, oh no, that's water storage? That was the oil. And sorry, my brain just partially turned off. Like, what is? Oh, there. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, they want to. No, that's not where I was going. There. And also, oh man, the amount of speculation that one announcement and reveal has started has been interesting. Because a lot of people are just envisioning, like, oh, imagine using that on a APU to increase the cache for the GPU. But it is also, there are thermal and power concerns, which is something that Ian Cuttress got into in his thing, in his video talking about it, because with those copper wires going through, you need the power for the SRAM, in this case, to go through what the lower layer. And you need to be careful then that the power going along it, along the wires, it doesn't interfere. Now, the fact that they are doing it with, they stacked the SRAM on top of the L3 cache there, that's going to help. But also, he points out, SRAM is already, it already doesn't take much power, doesn't produce much heat, so this is, my interpretation of what he was saying then is basically, this is the best place to start if you can do this. Where stacking compute dies, that's going to become a problem because those need more power and they put out more heat, so how are you going to dissipate that? AMD did say, though, that the extra material that they're sticking on top of the compute die to make sure that it's the whole thing, the whole chip there is then level with the I/O die. They were saying that the material that they're using there is thermally efficient, so that won't be a problem there. But if you are putting extra compute there, that's where you start having a problem. It will be very interesting to see what comes in the future. But it did also, like, last week when it occurred to me, the big little kind of designs, having a little core there, one that's more power efficient, could work for such stacking. Like maybe that's a goal for potentially years from now, where the little cores might be on the bottom. Well, no, because then they'd have easier access to power, but the heat dissipation wouldn't be as much of an issue because that would be the furthest from the IHS. So yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see what all is achieved with this, and it was definitely a huge kind of thing where it's like, here's a 3D stacked chip, or a chip using a processor using 3D stacking. Here's it running, and it'll be in production at the end of the year. AMD definitely made sure their keynote was interesting. And let me see now. Was it 2 weeks away as E3? I'm gonna go insane by then with all the review stuff that I have to do. Yeah. Well, I better get to it then. Yeah, this has been a long one, but I mean, I enjoy playing the game. I like having an opportunity to play this game. I actually thought about maybe doing one of these videos in the middle of the week just to talk about some of the Computech stuff. I didn't because I need to focus on the reviews. But yeah, I really should stop talking. I'll just see you next time.